Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome back to your Heat Latest on FanArc. I'm Sam Shapiro. If you haven't checked out Underdog Fantasy yet, well, you're living under a rock. Now is the time. With all the action going on with March Sadness and the NBA winding down, there are plenty of picks you can go and make on the app. You can actually get started browsing some of the picks you can make by using this QR code right here to download the app today. And when you use promo code BasketballFan, you can score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. So thank you to Underdog for sponsoring today's video, where I am going to be a very tough critic of this Miami Heat basketball team as they got absolutely handled by the Los Angeles Lakers last night, 134 to 126. And yes, while on paper this was only an 8-point game, Miami had a very solid first quarter, and then played horrible the rest of the game. This was a textbook sloppy Miami Heat basketball game, in my opinion, where they come out in the first quarter, guns blazing, making the majority of their shots with a pretty comfortable lead, up 42 to 29 at the end of the first quarter, followed by back-to-back 23-point second quarter, a 23-point second and third quarter. Like, throwing the game away. And Miami was still up by 6, I believe, 65-59 at half. Literally throwing the game away in the entirety of play. Majority. Obviously, the fourth quarter where Miami scored 38 was great, but at that point, it's too late. What are you doing? Ridiculous. Frustrating basketball to watch. One thing that Miami did that I absolutely despised in this game was deciding to go with Tyler Hero in the starting lineup instead of Norman Powell. And I don't want that to get misconstrued as me saying Tyler Hero stinks and Norman Powell is better, because that's not necessarily why I feel that way. Tyler Hero has shown that he can be equally productive whether he's having a good or bad night in the starting lineup or off the bench. I personally think Norman Powell plays better when he's in the starting lineup. And that's just, honestly, again, how I feel. If you guys disagree with me in the comments, you can rag on me all you want, but ultimately, Tyler Hero was not really shooting the basketball that great to start out this game. Yet, granted, he finished 8 of 19 from the floor, and I think that, obviously he kind of found a way to heat up as the game kind of transpired, but unfortunately, it kind of came at a time where it didn't really matter. And yeah, 7 points, 3 of 12 through the first half of play. The fact that he finished with 8 of 19 is insane, in my opinion. Yeah, definitely was able to heat up a little bit in the second half, but what? At the expense of another 23-point third quarter? So you could pretty much hand the lead over to the Lakers at that point? Hero was thankfully not Miami's leading scorer tonight. Bam Adebayo had another solid game, 28 points, 10 rebounds, 9 of 19 from the floor. Also had 3 threes in that contest. Good game from him, thankfully. Norman Powell still had a decent game off the bench. And I know I was ragging earlier in this segment that Powell should be in the starting lineup. We've talked about it on the channel here. Powell is a pure 20-point bucket at worst, depending on what the night kind of looks like. 20 points, 7 of 13 shooting. So, Hero and Powell both played, I would say, pretty efficient offense, and shot the ball fairly well. But when you look at Miami and how they, I believe, turned the ball over only 4 times in the first half and then finished the game with 11 turnovers. Granted, it was helpful that the Lakers only turned the ball over 11 times as well, but I personally think it was sloppy basketball. Kel'el Ware looked like he did at the beginning of the year, a complete deer in headlights, although he did have 14 and 9. There were just some plays I was watching Jackson Hayes go up, and Kel'el Ware is pretty much just standing watching the play unfold. So, yeah, it was just a really tough game, personally, I would say, for Miami, at least trying to score more than 25 points in, the second and third quarters was kind of a painful thing to watch. But, it was at least Davion Mitchell also had a pretty solid game. I think he shot perfect through the first half, ultimately finishing in this contest with 16 points, finishing 7 of 10 from the floor. So pretty efficient, at least scoring from him. It's just frustrating when you look at the box score. It's misleading because I think Miami, again, I don't think it was smart that they, started Hero. I didn't like how they ultimately weren't, Hero was dribbling, was not swinging the ball. Miami got great opportunities and great looks when they swung the ball. And also having Jaquez and Wiggins out of this contest for Miami didn't really work in their favor either. But I would be criminal to not mention the offensive onslaught that the Lakers put on in this contest. 60 points from Luka Doncic. I mean, definitely wanted to make a statement against Adebayo after he dropped his 83. But with Doncic's 73-point performance way back when being the 5th highest scoring performance in the league, in league history right now, I think he came into this game feeling like he needed to make some sort of scoring statement, whether it was putting up a big score. I think he had well over 32 points through the first 3 quarters. So the fact that he finished this game 60 points on over 50% shooting, 18 of 30 from the field, 60 points, 9 of 17 from 3. Unacceptable. That's absolutely unacceptable for Miami to let that happen. I get it. Doncic leading the league in scoring right now, basically unstoppable, but you can't give up 60 points. Okay, 30 points, whatever. 40 points, not great. But anything more than 40 points at this point, it's like, what are you, picking your nose, watching him dance around the floor? In addition to Luka's 60, LeBron also had a triple-double, 19 points, 15 rebounds, 10 assists on 8 of 12 from the field. Also liked seeing those nice South Beach 23s he was rocking, kind of paying tribute, I think, a little bit to his older team, wearing those kicks. And had some pretty exciting plays in this game, too, showing off why why he's really living up to the Father Time nickname at this point. So, it was at least nice to see LeBron. Well, it wasn't nice because it was at the expense of Miami losing, but it was interesting to see LeBron come back into his old house, have a pretty solid game, but it not end up being the best performance that the Lakers had to really show throughout the entire contest. So congratulations to Luka for, having a pretty nice scoring night, but Miami, you've got to step up against these superstar players. We were looking like the Washington Wizards giving up 60 points, to Luka Doncic last night. Still, I think Miami, and piggybacking off of that, we'd heard in the broadcast them talk about Miami trying to find their defensive identity. I don't know, man. Giving up at least 29 to 30 points per quarter doesn't sound like you found your defensive identity to me. Before we talk about what the play-in kind of looks like now that Miami dropped another important game, now riding a 3-game losing streak, we're going to dive into a quick shout out here to the sponsor of today's video, that being, Underdog Fantasy. Fast breaks, buzzer beaters, and block parties are back, and Underdog is the best place to get in on all the action. Now, playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like points, rebounds, steals, and more. Get your picks right, and you can win up to 5,000 times your cash. Now, this week on Underdog, I am looking at the matchup tonight in New York, where the New York Knicks are taking on the Brooklyn Nets. I'm selecting Jalen Brunson for higher than 8.5 assists, and Nick Claxton for higher than 10.5 points. Download the app today and use promo code BasketballFan to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. Again, that's promo code BasketballFan. It's all on Underdog. Make picks, win money. In this week's special segment, we're diving back into Bam Adebayo, unfortunately only playing 2 games since the contest we had kind of been talking about from him over last week's special segment. So the 83 points will stay on the graphic here, thankfully, but that right calf toughness kept him out of the contest against the Charlotte Hornets earlier this week. But still, having decent games against Orlando and the Lakers, and when I say decent, I mean it more in the regard of maintaining those consistent numbers. As we've seen from Adebayo through the entirety of this season, for the most part, he's found a way to score at least 18 or more points a game on any given night against any given team. He's also found a way to bring in at least 9 rebounds throughout the entirety of this season as well. And while I wouldn't say at least the rebounding department from Adebayo, when you look at these last 5 games that he's played, has been a consistent prime point in at least bringing in 9 rebounds every game, it's at least hovering around that figure, with the lowest being 7 rebounds in Saturday's contest against the Magic, which was another game Miami needed to win. These last 3 games, I would argue Miami needed to win more than the win streak, than the 7-game win streak they were just on. Because yes, they put themselves in a prime position that if they can win the right games, they can get themselves out of the play-in. But unfortunately, losing to the Magic, losing to the Hornets, and now losing to the Lakers, you're creating a really tough situation for yourself to get out of the play-in. I'm going to dive into that a little bit more in the next segment. But going back to Bam here, I think if you select higher for points, assuming that figure is hovering around 19.5, I'm selecting higher all day. Because as you can see from these last 5 contests, 20 or more points, I just think it would be criminal to not select higher in points. Assuming that figure is even 20.5, I'd still select higher. I mean, in 4 out of these 5 contests, he's got 21 or more. In terms of the rebounding department, I would say if your figure is looking at 9.5 or higher, wouldn't be the worst selection to make overall, depending on what matchup you're looking at for Miami, at least at this point going forward. I wouldn't look at any selections in terms of Adebayo's assist numbers because, as you can see from that contest against Detroit, 6 assists, in that contest, but then hovering around 2 or 3 in the preceding 4 contests after that. So, I think if you're looking at making any selections regarding Bam Adebayo, select higher on points, select higher on rebounds. I would not touch the assist column, but if you're going to group together points, rebounds, and assists, I'm selecting higher all day on that as well. I'm, again, very excited to talk about this consistent play we've seen from Bam Adebayo here as it's continuing from last week now into this week, and we need this play from the captain. So hopefully it will contribute towards more wins that we can see from Miami in the coming weeks because as I'm going to talk about now here in this next segment, Miami's got to continue winning some of these games if they want to find their way out of the play-in tournament. Again, this week's special segment brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Make picks, win money.
Must be 18 plus. 19 plus in Alabama, Nebraska. 19 plus in Colorado for some games. 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia. And present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/play and get terms DFSTML for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 helpline at 1-878 or text PMI 467-369.
All right, we've got a hot mess still brewing in the Eastern Conference, and I think we're going to try to make this a little bit more of a consistent segment here, this play-in watch, so to speak, because the Miami Heat roster is talked about on a number of fronts. We don't want to play in the play-in tournament anymore. We're avoiding it. We're not doing that anymore. Well, your play is not really speaking volumes to that because anytime you play a team that would decide where you're going to be in the standings, you like to throw the game away. Tonight would have been a prime opportunity, or last night, would have been a prime opportunity for Miami to move into the 6th seed with Orlando falling to the Charlotte Hornets. With the Hornets now at 36-34, it's not like they're going to completely just jump over either the Magic, the Heat, or the 76ers, or Atlanta, granted, because Atlanta found a way to beat Dallas, at least from the last contest that I had seen. But now with the Hawks sitting at 38-31, the Magic tied with them because they lost to Charlotte. Now Atlanta is out of the play-in, which they kind of deserve to be right now, considering the hot level of play they're on. I think they're they've definitely won their last 10 games. So they're absolutely cooking right now. I don't know if you guys saw that recent full court shot from Jonathan Kuminga, but dang! That was a lob. That looked like that Steph Curry chuck that we had saw floating around that I think was AI generated. But Miami's still sitting in the play-in tournament at 38-32 now. They should still be ahead of Philly, who, from what I saw last, was 37-32. And then Charlotte hovering right behind them at 36-34. It's really painful to watch. Because Miami wins this game tonight. They're sitting at 39-31. They're definitely ahead of the Magic, so they're at least the 7th seed. and they've got more wins than Atlanta, so you're bumping into the 6th seed at that point. So, again, Miami's just got to find a way to pump out some of these games. And yes, they pumped out some much needed easy wins through this previous 7-game win streak before going on this 7-game win streak before going on this 3-game losing streak. But unfortunately, the 3 games in this these are most likely teams that Miami is going to be matching up against if they can't find their way out of the play-in tournament, which at this point, given how this game against the Lakers transpired and the last 2 games against the Magic and the Hornets, I have no faith that this Heat team is going to find their way out of the play-in at this point. You want to go on another 7-game win streak? Okay, maybe, depending on how it shapes up. But right now, I am not confident that this Miami Heat team is going to find a way out of the play-in tournament. And that's all I'm going to say about that, at least at this point in time right now. Because the last segment I want to dive in today, I'm going to touch on the fact that you got to put some respect on my boy Bam Adebayo's name, 2K. Following his 83-point performance against Washington, 2K boosted his overall to an 89. And quite honestly, he's been fluctuating around that overall all season long. I feel like dipping it to 87 or 88 at certain points in the year. But I don't think we've ever seen him go over 89. I don't know how on planet Earth you're sitting there playing 2K, the player who has had the second highest scoring performance in NBA history is not a 90 overall at least? I'm sorry, what the fuck? Like, I just think that is so stupid. He had a scoring onslaught, and yeah, it was against the Wizards, and you could say whatever you want. 83 points is still 83 points. I don't think an 89 overall could outscore Kobe's best scoring performance ever. That's just my opinion. And maybe I'm crazy for saying that, but 2K, put some respect on my guy's name. Like, what the heck? Well, I said what the fuck before, but drop in the comments if you think my boy Bam is getting absolutely disrespected. Oh, he got an overall boost. Now he's an 89. He should be at least a 90 if he's going to drop 83 in a game. That's all I'm going to say about that, because that's the only argument personally that I think I need. That's going to do it for this Friday's episode of Your Heat Latest on FanArc. Do not forget to drop a like on this video, and I'll scream it as loud as I possibly can until we hit that goal. We're chasing 600 subs, people. I'd really appreciate if you hit that subscribe button. Thanks again so much for joining us. I'm Sam Shapiro. Hope you guys have a wonderful weekend.